My guest today is Luke James Williams. Luke is a British singer-songwriter who was introduced to me by a mutual friend, and I almost instantly fell in love with his music. He has an incredible ear for melody. His arrangements are absolutely wonderful, but most of all, his lyrics are very poignant and very meaningful. I wanted to discuss with Luke what was behind some of those lyrics and what made him who he is today. I hope you enjoy the interview as much as I enjoyed making it. Welcome, Luke James Williams.
Hi Andy, nice to see you, mate.
So we've met, I think, through Twitter, as
Yeah,
I've met many people. And I think we were also a mutual friend of Mr. Alec Bowman,
yeah,
who I'm sure at some point will be a guest on this on these interviews. And I think he told me that he'd seen you live and was blown away. So
oh, that's cool.
I checked you out. I checked you out, and I also was blown away. And so I think, as far as I know, the only thing so far, or the main thing you've released so far, is your EP Drove.
Yeah, that's right. So I think I released like a standalone single before that. It was just one track called Jenny Writes Letters. But then yeah, the first kind of like release and physical release was the EP. Kind of when I put the first track out, like, and I hadn't really played much live, and then really after that it was a case of maybe gigging for sort of 12 months or so and seeing what I felt really were my favourite songs and which ones kind of really felt like I wanted to put out first as a little collection kind of together. And then yeah, after a while kind of it became clear which songs I wanted to record from how I felt about the songs, having played them live and having lived with them a little bit. So yeah, and then, yeah, I put that out at the end of 2018.
Is that kind of your process? Because it seems it's a very different way of doing it. That you really perform all the live songs and then hone them and then decide whether they're worthy to be recorded.
Yeah, I think it can work, like can work sort of both ways. Like I've been in bands before and we've done kind of the two things, like having never played something live and just recording it and going out and then playing it. But I haven't done that. I think I've played all of them live at least once kind of before doing it. I find there's merits to both things because I'm not necessarily someone that thinks that just because it works live, it has to work in the studio or vice versa kind of thing. I think I'm not someone
Right.
that thinks that they're two different things and shouldn't be sort of respected as such. I think it's just sometimes I find, like, especially when I'm still writing a song, I find it can be sometimes helpful to play it live because you kind of almost like you don't know how you really feel about it until you're actually out there playing it in front of someone, and that's sometimes the
Right.
moment at which you think, oh, like it's too long, or it needs a lyric change there, or it just doesn't work, or on the other end sometimes you think, yeah, this is really going to work, and it gives you kind of that buzz to go and record it.
Right. I mean, for me, that's fascinating. As somebody who basically sweats and struggles over getting them recorded and then relearning them to play them live. I think I might try and try that approach in the future.
Yeah, I mean, all approaches are good. Like, as I say, I have done it before, like in an old band. Like, there would have been a couple of songs like which we even like recorded in the studio and then had to work out how we were even going to play it live, just in terms of the amount of parts and things like that. And that can be a fun process as well. I think potentially on the next thing I'm doing there will be one track, I think maybe even two, that might end up me not playing them live as such, simply because the times that we're living in, I think actually they're going to get recorded before I've even got a chance to play them, which again will be different for me on my
Yeah,
own. So it'll be interesting to see how
yeah.
that goes.
So you started out in bands, or is that sort of kind of gone in parallel with your own kind of solo
No, so I
writing?
started out in bands like from an early age, like so kind of all through my teenage years and early to mid 20s. Been like with mainly sort of in different incarnations the same sort of musicians who are still like my best friends. So still very lucky like to be really close with them.
And was that in this kind of similar sort of genre, or was it really
And
different? Because you kind of play, I would guess, yeah. I mentioned alt folk, but you do kind of play this sort of acoustic style singer-songwriter type of thing now,
Yeah.
right?
So the band that I used to be in, we were kind of yeah, like not a million miles away. Like if you imagined putting like a full band on like my songs, then it's it's wouldn't be a million miles away, but probably like a little bit more in the kind of alternative rock kind of. We were, so I guess we counted bands like The Cure, Massive Attack, Radiohead, kind of as sort of more of our sort of influences. At certain points, there was a bit more sort of electronic sort of like elements to the songs as well. So yeah, and a bit heavier, obviously heavier with sort of electric guitars as well at times. But then again, some very sort of stripped back acoustic numbers as well. So a bit of a sort of varied repertoire really.
Did you find it freeing to kind of step away from that, or scary, or
But a bit of both really. Yeah. We kind of
yeah,
we released 3 albums together, and by the end of it, we were a 5-piece, and it was getting ever increasing as we kind of got into our mid to late 20s to even organise rehearsals and things like that. And it just I think we'd been through a lot together over the time that we were together, and I think to me certainly it felt like I needed a break, and I kind of went and stepped away, I guess, with the thought I didn't really know kind of what I would do next, kind of thing. But that was quite nice. But what I found really nice after the band was like not having any agenda, like not having a band to write for, like not having like other people waiting on you finishing songs necessarily or anything like that. Like I could just write at my own pace, which was
yeah,
really nice, and really really liberating in a way. Like not that I ever felt like a great amount of pressure from the rest of the guys. Like as I say, we're really good friends and everything, but and they were very understanding. But it was just really nice to be kind of almost not have an agenda in mind, just be able to write, and sort of it kind of came
yeah.
together quite organically. The songs that I felt that kind of represented me in this kind of new chapter, I guess.
Well, they're fantastic songs, and
Thank you.
yeah, there's 2 singles that you've released, and I think more recently, "Stay in Bed," I think was the second series,
Yeah, still,
second single,
yeah.
and that's been played a lot on radio. And Tom Robinson, I know, has been a bit of a champion of it. Was that something that helped you to get noticed and get gigs, or were you already really a gigging musician?
No, I mean, yeah, anything like that, like it always helps. Like it's a huge help, there's so many people out there making music, and so many brilliant people out there making music. It can be very hard to cut through, and venues and radio stations and everything, and get inundated by such high quality of songs and production and everything. And no, I mean that was a huge help. Like I mean, I felt like I'd had like a little bit of sort of support before then, and I was able to get some gigs. But certainly, I mean, the moment that happened, I definitely noticed kind of like a greasing of the wheels somewhat. I mean, it's not like it ever became easy, but it
Sure.
definitely helped. I think the moment you get kind of a little bit of support like that, it just helps get it just helps sort of when you send people through your biog, their names that they recognise, their people, their stations that they know, so they just think, oh, okay, it maybe just helps that few percent just help them check it out, and then it's up to them whether they like it or don't like it. But
Yeah,
at least it
yeah.
helps you get in front of them.
I had a question really about performing these songs live. One of the things that I found with my own music is not only did I have to learn them from the record, but I had to really try to get inside the emotion but step away from it, because I was kind of too close. And I wanted to talk to you about that really. We'll talk about the song Rabbit Hole in a minute if you want, but it's an extremely emotional kind of a song, I imagine, or at least that's what I get from it.
Yeah.
Did you have to kind of do that when you perform live? It's almost like you're singing about something else or someone else.
I mean, I think it was written like, I think for me, like I do tend to find like songs can, like they kind of, their meaning can kind of change in a way. Like you might write them about one thing or even a mixture of things, but then sometimes you might play it on stage, and whatever's going on in your life at that particular moment, or in the kind of in your close world around you, or in the wider world even, like, and all of a sudden, like, you're singing these words and they take on a completely different thing. So I think, yeah, there's certain songs and you never quite know when they're going to catch you out, kind of thing. Certain times you might be in a particular kind of frame of mind, and you might think, yeah, I'm going to do this song tonight, and you start playing it, and you get a bit of a, I don't know, something hits you, kind of thing. So I think it's quite hard, really, to completely distance yourself from it. Obviously, there's other things when you're playing live. You kind of your mind can sometimes be distracted, and you can be, have your mind on many other different things. But I think it wasn't necessarily conscious. I haven't found a conscious effort to try and not think about what it's about, if you know what I mean. But at the same time, yeah, as I say, with certain songs, there's been moments in which, you might get a bit choked singing it or whatever. But it's not necessarily to do with what even you wrote it about. It just can be kind of what springs up from singing it at that particular time.
And it's one of the things I think I love about your music in particular is there's just that raw emotion there, and it reminds me it's quite a different genre and different style, but it does remind me a bit of The Cure, and it does remind me, I would say, of PJ Harvey in perhaps in the back in the day, where there was just this raw emotion, it's this visceral emotion that you get from it, and to me that's something that I would strive for myself. But I think it's also a very brave thing to do there, and you're putting it out there and saying that. What's your kind of take on the whole thing of this kind of confessional music? Is it autobiographical? I might be just assuming that it might just be a nice story, but is your music autobiographical to some extent?
Yeah, definitely. I'd say it's a bit of a patchwork. I think probably, like, there are some songs which are completely about one particular situation, but I tend to find, like, although it might be like the initial idea of a song might be inspired by one particular event or situation, it can quickly, there's other things that quickly get, when you're finishing the lyrics and things like that, I often find I'm kind of weaving other things in there as well.
Yeah.
You often find kind of parallels with maybe other situations you've been in, or at different times of your life, or other things that are going on when you come to finish the song that kind of round it all and help it make sense in a way. But yeah, I've never felt. I think when you as you get older, I've certainly found with me, like, I think I've maybe been guilty in the past, like with my old band and stuff, of like trying to, I don't know, maybe like censor yourself slightly, or kind of but kind of I've kind of got to the stage now where I know that some people are gonna like it, and I know that some people are gonna hate it, and that's got nothing to do with me. That's got nothing to do with, I have no control over that, and that's that person's opinion, and that's totally cool. All I can do is write what comes out and try and hammer it together in the best way that I think I should, and put it out, and then much beyond that, it's a bit of a mystery.
Yeah. Does it kind of take you a while to get into a space where you can write, or are you kind of one of those people who's able to be diligently, like, working on songs and working on lyrics and things?
I find coming up with ideas, I'm always coming up with ideas. What I find really hard is finishing them and hammering them into shape. Like, I've got so many, friends that write songs, sort of share sort of similar things, like where you just find it almost depressing, like going through your voice notes on your phone or through hard drives and just thinking, oh my God, I've got so much unfinished stuff there that's, and some of it's complete rubbish, but some of it you think, oh my word, like, why haven't I dedicated time to try and finish this, and it is, it's kind of the two sides. Like I've I have some ideas sometimes when you're just doing something in a different time, or and you can have a song idea come into your head, a title or a little bit of melody, or even just a rough structure for a song or the kind of song you might want to create. But But then there's something, at the times when I have managed to get myself organised enough to sit down and just say, right, in this couple of hours, I'm just going to try and come up with new ideas. You always come up with new ideas. Again, they might not be very good, but at least you're creating something that wasn't there when you sat down. So I'd say that I'd say it's more like an organisational thing for me, and I've definitely found in the past like a fear of writing, definitely like a fear of it not being as good as the last song I wrote. Like definitely have that, and it's definitely kind of a bit of a constant battle. Like almost like sometimes I'll come up with like what I think is like a nice chord progression, and I'll almost be worried to start writing a melody or lyrics because I'm like, I can't ruin this, and it's such a preposterous thing to think, and I know that I'm silly for thinking it, but it's hard to not feel that at the time you're feeling it, But I've definitely felt kind of my most, when you're doing it regularly, I think it is a little bit like an engine kind of thing, And whilst what you put out or what you write, even like at that time, might not be, amazing. If you keep doing it, it seems like it just kind of lubricates the whole process, kind of thing. It can at times. So I really respect people that can get up every day and just say, okay, I'm just going to write for like 2 hours a day. I'd love to be organised and have strong enough willpower to do that, but maybe one day.
I had a writing teacher who always used to say that. He used to say, when he was teaching, he would say, write every day, write 1,000 words every day, even if it's rubbish. And I'm just one of those people who I'll write 5 words in a week, and then other weeks I'll sit down and write 5,000, and it's just totally unpredictable. It's not, and it's not something I can just force,
No,
or maybe I'm just lazy. But
no, I completely no. I think it's like I've always felt like the most magical kind of songs tend to end up coming from nowhere, like the ones that you really kind of, like I said, there's no right and wrong way. Like I think anyone that I guess people have to teach things like writing, and I guess there is what they might consider to be a tried and trusted method, but it's probably just their method or someone else's. Like everyone's different, and everyone has different ways of doing things. I think there's no, and certainly like I'm definitely someone that like I tend to find the best ideas will kind of come out of nowhere, the ones that I end up being closest to and end up finishing.
So I just want to talk a little bit about Rabbit Hole, because it's a song that really deeply touched me when I heard it, and I it's probably one of my favourite songs, to be honest. And I'm not just saying that because I'm interviewing you, but it's genuinely a brilliant song. And there's a line in it which it's you can't unfeel all the things that you felt if you never let go of the cards you've been dealt. And when I heard that line, it just said so many things to me about my own life, my own place, and it made me feel a connection to the song, a connection to you as a singer, I think as well, as an artist. And if you wouldn't mind, would you kind of mind sort of digging into where that came from, or how it came? You don't have to mention specific situations, obviously.
Sure.
But, to come up with a line like that, there's an element of pain that is undeniable, I think, that's in that.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of one of those songs which was inspired by like a close friend that was really, really struggling with their demons, and kind of just seeing them hit absolute rock bottom again and again. And just the such cruel cycle of just seeing someone that you really care about just crash time and time again, no matter how hard they were trying to work their way out of it. And I mean, unfortunately, I know I know a couple of people that have been in that situation, and I guess like upon writing it and kind of delving more into it, although like not in anywhere near as severe a way, I realised parallels with kind of certain things that I'd been through in my life. And it's one of those songs which is kind of was inspired by one particular kind of event, I guess, and situation, but kind of the more time's gone on, I've kind of seen more in the song which I didn't really realize was there before necessarily. But yeah, I'm I'm really touched that that you connected with it, and it is a song which people have have said that they've had that connection with, and that's mind blowing, like to have that connection with people.
Yeah, I think I've said this before, and I hate to repeat myself, but sometimes songs, even when they're not fact, they're true, and I think that's what I sort of felt about that. Even if not every line is this really happened to X person, but it's like there's just a truth, and I think when you can bring that truth through, I think it can be really helpful. It can be almost a catharsis for someone else, even if it's a kind of scenario that it's not completely them, but it can be something that can really help them or really understand for them. And to be able to do that, I think is it's a skill, not just to mold it into a song, but like to really give it that emotion and that feeling when you record it. So do you think with that kind of thing, is that something that like drives you to write when you have that kind of emotion, or are you just simply kind of using the song as a channel, or is it something else?
I think I just feel, because I've written songs for like for such a large part of my life, like since I was a kid basically, like I think I've always found it like I never kept a diary, like I know people do, and I know people maybe paint, or that helps them kind of express kind of or make sense of kind of what's going on in their world. And I just feel lucky that I've always been able to put pen to paper and come up with kind of these songs with chords and melodies and things that can help me make sense of kind of what's going on. I mean, beyond that, I mean, you never know. I mean, when you're writing it, I guess you never know how it's going to end up. You never know even know if you're going to end up releasing it, even like, or so I think it's just about trying to make sense really, and trying to put it down on paper, and trying to I guess make something that wasn't there before, and help kind of put your thoughts into some kind of an order when I find that a lot easier in a way, like sometimes, like to express kind of most accurately kind of how I feel, like through song, I guess. Don't know if that sounds a bit flowery, I don't know, but
No, I think it's right. I mean, sometimes I can think of a few times where my songs have been instead of therapy.
yeah, I mean, yeah, absolutely. I think it helps you to, in the same way that anyone would, like as I say, keep a diary or write, any other, make any other kind of art to try and help them make sense of what they're going through, or what's happening in their world.
What sort of influenced you in that way? Because some people do just grow up to write happy pop songs and make £1 billion.
I mean, I don't know why. I mean, I guess maybe from playing in bands, I guess maybe it's a similar thing. I mean, I was never in metal bands, but the bands that I were in was probably more, especially as an early teen, kind of like more grungy kind of stuff. So I guess I've kind of always been drawn to the slightly darker stuff. I mean, I guess kind of the first, the first bands that I was in, we were heavily influenced by bands like Nirvana and Pearl Jam and stuff like that, who I guess are maybe more on the darker kind of side, I guess, and maybe it's just it comes as a result of that. But I definitely agree. Like, I mean, I love kind of a lot of kind of what I guess what you'd call kind of happy and upbeat music.
Yeah, me too.
But I don't know. I guess I've never felt particularly compelled to make that kind of music, or felt like it's ever come particularly naturally. I mean, if who knows? You never know.
Might happen, yeah.
Yeah, this time next year could be like S Club 7 back or something, but yeah, well, I wouldn't rule it out. But I'm kind of with you. I've always found, I guess maybe more because the times in my life when I feel like I need to make sense of things have been maybe more confusing, or in times where there's been some tension or friction in my life. And so those are the moments that I've needed to make sense of more.
Yeah.
Whereas I think when I'm happy, I'm just happy to be living life and just enjoying doing what I'm doing. I don't necessarily need to,
Right.
I don't feel the same need to try and rationalize it, or then make sense of it on paper in the same way. I think maybe that's why.
Yeah. So maybe the creation is driven by the tension and the.
Yeah, potentially. Yeah.
I think it's. I mean, I absolutely. There's nothing wrong with dancing around to ABBA on a Saturday night. Yeah, I absolutely love it, and I think there's songs that. Songs that are there to make you feel good, and there's songs that are there to make you feel better. Yeah. And it doesn't matter if they're sad or happy in some ways, even though that's kind of paradoxical.
No, absolutely not. No, I mean, you can gain comfort in. I think, again, like what we were saying earlier about kind of, when you play songs, you feel different things in different situations. Like when you hear songs, again, you can be. Like when you're, maybe listening to music at home and you've got a playlist or something on, or if you're listening to the radio, a certain song comes on and it just that might be the exact song you need to hear at that exact moment. I mean, I was listening to same thing happened to me today. Like I was listening to Six Music earlier, and song by Songhoi Blues came on, and I just loved their music. Like it just, to me, it's just like a ray of sunshine, and just I was kind of. It was just the song that I needed to hear right in that moment, and it was just like, sometimes it goes like that, you could hear the song on a different day and you might just think, oh, it's nice to hear this, but at certain times it just absolutely kind of, it just, goes right through you kind of thing, like, right through to your core kind of thing, and it's just the song that you need to hear at that time.
Yeah, I think that's the beauty of music, is that you can find anything that'll suit you at any given time. If you want to go and listen to some avant-garde black metal, then you can. If you want to listen to pop, you can. If you want to listen to Billie Eilish, you can. And it's cool that it's so available. Although I do understand why people have this sort of feeling like, oh, I wish people would still listen to albums and whatever. I get that. I do get that, because I like that myself. But I do love the fact that we can just communicate with music all the time, really. Just have it there for all different reasons and purposes. How have you found the lockdown's been? Has it been a sort of help to creation to you, or has it been a nightmare?
It's not helped creation, no. No. For me personally, no. I mean, to be honest with you, on a whole, we're fine. Like we're really fortunate that me and my other half, Tasha, we still work from home. So, and we've got plenty of space. We've got a little garden. The weather in the UK has been pretty good. So no, we're very lucky. On the whole, and. Thankfully all our families are safe and well and close to us, so it's been fine, and to be honest with you, because we've both still been working, like we've still had like a semblance of routine, so that's kind of been good. But yeah, just in terms of trying to be creative, no, I just find it's not been I've been able to get a lot of admin done and sort of like planning and stuff like that done, and various bits and bobs, but yeah, in terms of writing, I found it difficult. Like kind of, on a pragmatic point of view, like I tend to like to write in the house when I'm on my own. Yeah. And with that not being the case, I'm trying to feel a little bit inhibited. At times, which is kind of a practical thing. But the main thing is I just find, like like real life, like situations, kind of being outdoors, having that balance in your life of kind of having lots of things going on and getting out is what I find inspiring. And without that balance, it just feels it just feels so odd. and so strange. I really respect, and I'm really glad for the people that have, like, used this time really productively and have maybe it's inspired them to start creating. And but for me, it's not been that way, unfortunately, up to now. Anyway.
Yeah, yeah. I think it's been really tough for a lot of people. But you're talking about you've got new sort of songs in the
Yeah,
pipeline.
yeah, I was really lucky to be able to finish a couple of recordings before all of this. So yeah, that's kind of what I'm prepping at the moment, to put out a couple of songs. I mean, it's meant to eventually be a full album, but I don't know when the album's going to get finished, to be honest with you. But that's fine. I'll release the songs, and then when I can get back in the studio, when it's safe to do so, then there'll be more.
Yeah,
So yeah, and yeah, I'm hopeful that if I can get into a bit of a better routine, then maybe I can start finishing off some songs. As I say, there's been not the usual kind of steady stream of kind of new ideas, but there's plenty there that I could probably get my teeth into if I felt like it. But some days I just don't feel like it.
no, definitely not. And I don't think there's anything wrong with that. I think it's okay to not be okay. It's okay
Absolutely,
to
yeah. I think there's a real.
yeah,
I mean, as I say, I think it's marvelous that people are being so creative and you know, um, doing all these, you know, like amazing things like writing and completing entire albums and writing books and everything. But which is amazing. But like, I just think everyone needs to be reminded that it's totally, we're in the middle of a global health crisis. Like this is with anything, we're so far from normal. It's ridiculous. Like, and it's definitely, I mean, I've, been speaking to friends and, people that work from home anyway. I mean, I work from home anyway, like, but I've found like my energy levels and everything just so low over the last couple of months. Like, there's no, you might look at it on the face of it and say, well, there's no real reason for that, but of course there is. Like, we're living in such scary, horrible times that an alien experience for all of us. Truly horrendous. That it's absolutely okay to and I think I've really, although like I'm really pleased for those people that are putting out loads of stuff and everything like that. Like, I'm equally like pleased and proud for the people who have said, look, I'm not going to do anything. I'm giving this chance to have a break. You owe that to yourself. Like, that's the great thing. Fortunately, the vast majority of us are free to do what we want when we want to do it, and that's the great thing about making something. You don't, and I think a lot of that pressure, it's not actually real pressure from anyone or anything, but I just think with all of the channels of social media and everything, and the constant non-stop news that we get fed and everything like that, I think it's just the nature that there's this almost perceived pressure on all of us to constantly be creating and doing amazing things, and life's just not like that.
definitely. Yeah, for me, I think I had a bit of a crisis at the end of March, and pretty much stopped working on everything that I was doing, and it took me a few weeks to really realize that there's no legitimate reason to put myself under all of this pressure, because it's not like in the old days we've got a big record company holding a bat over your head saying get your next album out. It's like, well, no one's really telling me I have to do this. I can do whatever I want, and if I don't feel like it, or if I can't, then it's okay too. And it doesn't make you any less of a musician or any less of an artist if you can't do those things.
Absolutely. No, 100% agree with you.
I kind of feel like maybe it comes back to what we were talking about earlier with the writing. It's like, if you don't write 1,000 words a day, you're not a writer. Well,
Yeah. Again,
read a haiku.
Yeah, I mean, it's all these forms of pressure that I think aren't helpful. It's not helpful, like, to anyone really. It's not. I think we're all free to create what we want when we want to do it. And to put it out whenever we want to put it out, and put it out however we want to put it out. just in the same way that people are then free to interpret it in whatever way they want to interpret it.
Yeah.
Like, but yeah, I really believe that, a lot of that pressure, like, although we all feel it as real, it's not really there. There's no one, there's no one on our, or at least I hope there isn't anyone on our, in our kind of, on our, on our networks saying, oh, why aren't you releasing music? And because you're not releasing music, you're not a proper musician or whatever. It's just, you have to. I think it's just all perceived, but it's just because you see so many other people doing all these amazing things, which is great, but at the same time, it can leave you feeling really crap about yourself. Like,
there's one rule in life, which is never read the comments, but I have seen it on people on YouTube, commenting on various creators saying, well, why has it been so long since your last video or whatever, and you're thinking,
gosh,
come on, man. And I think somehow social media also can create that pressure, because you see someone doing something absolutely amazing, and I'm so grateful for it, like putting out a song every day or something, and you just think, oh, this is fantastic and I'm loving it. But then you always feel like, okay, I've been working on a new song and I've been working on it for 4 months now. So
yeah. I mean, I just think it's we have to be kind on ourselves. Like, you have to do what's right for you, and just because someone else is putting out a song a day, it doesn't mean it's just because it's right for them, it doesn't mean it is for you. Like,
exactly,
you have to do what what you feel, and and I know that is so much easier said than done, because I've been I'm there quite regularly in that kind of state. But it's good to know that other people are in feel the same way, and sort of value the what it is to take stock every now and again, and take breaks when you need them, and not pressure yourself to feel like you have to put things out all the time.
Yeah. And I really do think, I made a joke about writing a haiku, but, I do think that you look at some of the artists who died very young, right? And they only produced like one album, like Jeff Buckley, right? He made one brilliant album. And nobody really is thinking like, oh, come on, Jeff, where's your other album?
No.
But he was no less of a musician for having done one album. Right. I mean, God, what a player. But so I think this idea that you have to produce an album every year or whatever it is something we just tell ourselves as a weird story. And I'm really glad to hear that you sort of taking that on board of being kind to yourself. And
and I think I think people go through different artists that you sometimes see artists take sort of like a 5 or 6 year gap between releasing albums, and then all of a sudden they'll release like 2 or 3 albums in the space of I don't think there's any and I think just because I haven't been in the stage in my life yet where I've released an album a year because I've wanted to, who knows, in the future maybe I'll have enough material there and have the drive to do so. And I think that there's again, like, you don't have to always feel like that just because you don't do it now doesn't mean you won't do it next week or next year or in 2-3 years time or whatever.
And no one says you ever have to.
No,
it's still completely legitimate what you've done. And I mean, honestly, from my point of view, if all that you've given to the world is Drove, you've succeeded. It's beautiful music, and it's really given something to the world. I think it's not just you've stuck out a few songs, but you've really given something of yourself and of to the music. So,
but likewise, I think anyone that creates something like to create anything that wasn't there before, like, is an amazing thing to do. And I think that there's so much value in that. And I think sometimes sometimes people can kind of say, oh, well, you only make it for yourself. But it's like, well,
who else should I make it for?
Yeah, well, of course you do that, but the act of putting it out there, you're putting it out there in the hope that someone else is that someone then takes it, and then it becomes its own thing. That's sharing. Like, it's 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 an attempt to make a connection, and I always think it's like an act of, I don't know, yeah, of sharing and of love, and
Yeah,
whatever you put out, like I think it's important, and people should be encouraged to, if they want to say something and they want to put it out into the world, then they should always be encouraged to do so, I think.
yeah, yeah. I think that's a really beautiful way of putting it. Actually, it's um, there's always this massive inferiority complex that I get as well. I hear some of my heroes and just think, oh, I'll never be that good. I'll never do that.
Me too. Like I hear songs and I just think, well, why bother? Like,
Yeah,
if they can write that, then what's the point?
yeah.
Like, but
But then on the other hand, I still think that you can, you can. What
absolutely.
what you do is valid and it's
But
okay.
yeah, absolutely. And the thing again, that's that whole pressure thing. It comes from nowhere. It's ludicrous. Like, it's
Yeah,
ludicrous to think that there even has to be such a thing as better or worse. Like,
yeah, yeah.
you know
It's
you know
definitely.
you c- you know it's okay to like more than one thing at
Yeah,
the same time or at different times for different reasons, like, and I think we always,
yeah,
just because, yeah, someone's written an amazing song and we love it, we all of a sudden get the stick out and start beating ourselves over the head because we
yeah,
don't think we'll ever write that. Well, of course we'll never
no,
write it. They wrote it, like,
yeah.
but they will
Or we
never.
start beating on them as well, like saying, "Why don't you write another one of them?"
Yeah, but they'll never be capable of writing the songs that you write.
Let's shift gears a bit, and I see behind you you've got the Save Our Venues hashtag.
Ah, that's still there from the, yeah,
Yeah, so
online.
it's something that I've been thinking about. There's this kind of whole ecosystem, especially with sort of smaller independent artists, of not only people doing this kind of music and sharing it with reasonably small audiences, but also all the venues and all of that. Has it affected you? Obviously, I think you were going on tour, weren't you? You had a tour.
Well, I didn't have a tour booked, but I had certainly a good number of dates throughout the summer, sort of booked up. Yeah, I mean, obviously all gigs cancelled. Much like everyone else.
Yeah,
But yeah, I mean, it was only really, obviously I've been corresponding with the various promoters and venues, kind of thing, that I was meant to be playing at, and um, but I guess kind of the whole like Save Our Venues thing only kind of, it hadn't really dawned on me, I guess, like being locked in our little world for so long, that of course all of these venues, and all of a sudden, week before last maybe, I started to see these things, venues like the Hope and Ruin in Brighton, amazing venue that I love.
yeah,
But then, like, much closer to home, venue in the town, kind of where majority of my mates are, in Hitchin in Hertfordshire, like out the venue that was kind of our hub as teenagers, and kind of where I met all of my friends and played music from, since I was 14 years old. Like, were struggling, and they were doing this, this crowdfunder thing, and of course, like, then you start to think, yeah, like, they've all still got their rates and rent to pay and everything like
yeah,
that, but absolutely nothing going on for them.
yeah,
So yeah, it's a really scary time for venues,
yeah,
especially as I mean, who knows what's going to happen, but it looks quite likely that anything like gigs is probably going to be one of the
yeah,
last things to return.
yeah. And I think there's this kind of hidden support system underneath all what musicians do. It's not just about us standing on a stage, but there's
Absolutely.
venues, there's promoters, there's people who are working in those venues and serving food and drinks and all of that stuff. That their lives have been really turned upside down by virtue of working in a place that usually just serves music.
Yeah,
And
absolutely.
and so I think in one way there's just even more of a need for doing music and getting it out there again.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's. I think beyond the tragedy of the health side of it, like, the tragedy economically is going to roll on for a long time. You know, and yeah, it's yeah, just about seeing what we can do to try and protect these venues, to make sure that when we're out of this, that we, and I think hopefully it will. it will hopefully, when things get back to normal, whatever that is, that people will be a little bit more, I don't know, hopefully they'll just see more of the value that was always there, kind of thing, that maybe we all took for granted a little bit, that they're in these spaces that provide so many opportunities for so many people.
Yeah, and I think that's right. And one of the things that I found really interesting is obviously a lot of artists have gone down the route of doing streaming and kind of online things. And there's been a massive demand for content, like the viewing numbers of YouTube and
Yeah.
Netflix and all of that is just sky high. And so, and somebody said it, and it's not my original thought, but somebody said, uh, perhaps now that perhaps everyone should try staying at home for 4 months without any music or art to
Yeah.
watch. So maybe start valuing artists and start valuing musicians again, and start thinking
Yeah.
about. So what do you think about this whole controversial bit, but this whole broken record thing? Are you aware of that?
Yeah, I am. I mean, yeah, I'm absolutely on board. Like, yeah, something has to change.
I mean, it's been promoted as a way for musicians to get their music in front of huge audiences, but in reality, it's been a way for musicians to be exploited. And I think I myself, I'm on Spotify, I'm on, all of those channels, and I think it does help to some extent building an audience, but you're not making any money from it.
No.
And yet there's a massive consumption of the work of artists around the world. And I do think it is time for people to value that, and not just for people, but because I think people generally do, but I think for corporations who control all of this stuff to actually start rewarding people properly again for
Yeah,
for
absolutely.
music.
Yeah, I mean, I think with any technology, like it has its merits, like it really does. But I think in the case where there's such an assumption that things should be given away for free now, it really, and because there is so much music everywhere, I really think that the kind of appreciation of everything that goes into it has been lost somewhat. And I think you're completely right. I mean, when you say, like, put it as simply as, imagine this lockdown without any music or films or art, or it would be, well, I can't imagine. I don't even want to think about it. Yeah, like, music is, for me, I've found so much comfort in listening to music and getting immersed in albums and songs, both that have been released this year, and going back through things I haven't listened in a while. And it is very difficult, because a lot of these platforms do help, and obviously, and again, there's a kind of there's almost like a feeling like, well, it'd almost be suicidal not to be on them. So you go on them, but then you see that there might at certain times be an awful lot of people listening to music, but that just are happy to be a passive listener of your music. I mean, I guess I've been really impressed to see kind of the flip side of that I think the people, and again, it's the same people, but I just think the kinds of people that use Bandcamp or that buy merch and stuff directly from artists on other platforms have almost, I don't know, it's almost like they're coming out more in their numbers to kind of wear the badge and say, look, I want to support these artists. And I think that's a great thing. And I think that it's kind of, and I hope that they're being rewarded for doing so.
And that's actually been a wonderful thing. I'm not advocating that everyone should do this, but I set all my stuff on Bandcamp to pay what you want, and actually what I found is that people paid what they would almost pay for a CD, just naturally, which I think is fascinating, but it means that I'm in control of it as well. It's my art. I get to control how much is paid for it, and so on. And so I think I've got to give kudos to Bandcamp for what they have done.
Absolutely.
It's not perfect. There's things I'd still like them to be able to do, but those are more technical issues. And I guess it's just how do you promote that to somebody, because to be frank, it's not the easiest thing to, access on your phone and just play onto, if it was as easy as Spotify, it would be wonderful.
Right? Yeah. I mean, it will be interesting to see. I mean, it seems, I've even seen things that they're, new features kind of on the back end and things like that. So it makes me wonder if they're going to really try and kind of be the alternative, step up more. And I think if they can do that, then I think there's definitely people that would really get behind it.
I think they've realised it as well. I think they realised during this that that actually it's not only the lifeblood of the artist, but it's their lifeblood as well, the artists that are on their platform. And so caring for them means that they'll do better as well. And they have done, like this waiving their fees once a month. It's just been a massive boon for people, because suddenly you can have a day where you're going to get paid. And that's great. But so I do. I think you're right. They've just developed this new artist dashboard and stuff like that, which is
it'll be interesting to see how that develops. Moving forwards. But it'll be interesting to see. Like, I mean, it would be really nice to, obviously, like us as kind of like sort of grassroots kind of musicians. It's hard, and we can do our bit to help spread the word about the kind of broken record thing. But it'd be really nice to see some bigger artists getting involved with it. I think that's the time when you can really start to see, supported by all of the grassroots and upwards. But I think the moment you start to see sort of the bigger artists, the ones that have got more power, I think then I think until that time, it'll be interesting to see. It could be difficult. I mean, hopefully not. I mean, hopefully there can be a groundswell and it can just grow into something. But fingers crossed.
Yeah, it would be great. I mean, the one good thing from it all is that I do think people have realised just how hard it is for musicians who essentially, especially full-time musicians, it's just
absolutely
really, it's almost a breadline existence. Even for bigger artists.
Absolutely. I mean, it's been a really really tough time. I mean, I've no friends that have had upwards of 12 to 18 months worth of work cancelled. And it's
I mean, if you're losing 40, 50 gigs in a year, it's a lot of income. And I'm not trying to compare us to health workers or something who are just absolutely harrowing situation. But I think the one thing is that as we were saying, that so many people are now really reliant on having music, having art, having film, having whatever it is available all the time. And the actual people who are making these things for them are facing difficulties. So I'm glad to see something is being said and something's being done. To some extent.
From the people that are saying it as well, they're big. It's the CEO of PRS, isn't it? That's kind of big, big behind it. Which is great. Great to see those kind of figures. So I mean, hopefully, if more people can get on board with it, then that will be a positive, hopefully a positive step. And I think hopefully through this situation, people will hopefully take stock a little bit of the value in our venues and in artists and in everyone in
people
key workers
definitely
everyone in people in general, as you say. There's so maybe so much has been taken for granted for so long that hopefully a lot of people will take stock, and it will help us see the world in a bit of a different light.
I really hope so. Anyway, I think that's a good note to wrap it up on.
Sure, man.
Luke, thank you so much for
being
my guest.
It's been a real pleasure.
Really it's been great chatting to you, and I hope we'll catch up again soon. And I think, can we give a sneak preview maybe that we might be working on something together?
Yeah, of course. No, I look forward to hopefully, doing something
Put-
together very soon.
Yeah, so watch this space. So,
Great stuff.
all right. Cheers. Have a great night.
Yeah, cheers, Andy.
Where have you gone? Where do you go? These hidden places nobody knows. How far can you run? How well can you hide when what you're running from is on the inside? You can't unsee all the things that you've seen. If you cannot do it for yourself, would you do this for me? 'Cause I can't watch you fall down that rabbit hole again. Why do you feed the old enemy, the one that pulls the earth from under your feet? I've seen this change in you. It flows through everything that you say and do. I can't watch you fall down that rabbit hole again. No, I can't watch you fall down that rabbit hole again and again and again, again and again and again, again and again and again, again and again and again. Where have you gone? Where do you go? These hidden places nobody knows. Well, you can't unsee all the things that you've seen. If you cannot do it for yourself, would you do this for me? 'Cause you won't unfeel all the things that you felt if you never let go of the cards you've been dealt. No, I can't watch you fall down that rabbit hole again.